Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Seems like we're just having a slightly delayed start. Stay with us, and we'll be underway shortly. And we're back. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sunday nights. We've been away for a little while, not that long. It's round 1. It's Hungary, season 7. Speeds of up to 310 kilometers an hour around the Hungary ring. Some overtakes to remember: Verstappen versus Leclerc in 2022. Verstappen coming from 10th place to win the race, Leclerc finding himself on the wrong tyre. And then a few years earlier, 2017, Verstappen versus Ricciardo, and Ricciardo's race would go no further. Then in 2016, Kimi Räikkönen, wanting to get past Felipe Nasr, had to pull off all of his rally skills to get that one done. So tonight, as always, the 3 compounds: the soft, the medium and the hard. And if needed, the intermediate and the wet will be on standby. Welcome back to SKR. It's Sunday night and we're ready to go. Well, I just so happened to say that at the end of the tyre screen that wet weather tyres would be on standby, and there we go. It's raining, and it's raining quite a bit. All the drivers shell-shocked, nobody leaving the pits for now. So this does change everything, and obviously it depends what this weather is going to do going into the race. Are we going to have more of this in the race, or is it going to be a dry race? As things stand, this looks pretty wet. Maybe things will dry up before the end of the session. Welcome to Ian, Tap Magozi, Death Queen, Skull, everyone in the comment section, everyone watching. Obviously the many more of you that watch this after the race. Only a fraction of you watch this live. Many more watch it during the week when they're supposed to be at work. This is Acid Milk. He was the first driver out of the pits, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll be able to get an indication from Aston Martin just what those conditions are like. This is the end of his outlap. He's going to go around now to start his first attempt. Call this circuit Monaco without barriers because of its twisty, tight nature. Don't know if I agree with the without barriers. In some parts of the track, barriers are close enough. Acid Milk just trying to make his way around the circuit. Wants to get that first time in. Always at risk in the rain. You can make a mistake, go off into a wall, not set a lap time. And Hungary is not really the track you want to start from the rear of the field. Without the help of safety cars, you're going to have a very difficult time coming through the field on one of F1's tighter race circuits. We ride now with the Ferrari of Skull. That's very busy. Just have one car sitting in the pits. That's Rhino. Everybody else is out on track, either on fast laps or on out laps. But everybody looking to put times up on the screen. if anybody is a driver and is watching the stream, next time you come into the pits, let me know in the comment section the weather situation. Are we going to have more of this in the rain? And even more importantly, are things going to dry up at the end of quali, or are we expecting this all the way through? Obviously Skull now goes over the line, 28.2. You can see those lap times come down. If the rain does ease up, then the track will improve. Then these lap times will mean practically nothing. But if the rain does get harder, then it's crucial that you're out on track right now, because this will be your best opportunity. SAFRL has gone into provisional pole, 27.2. Next race is Skull, 28.2. So a gap of a second between those two. Fancy Star in P3, Smurf. Top Gun goes up into P3. We've got an Alpine stationary on circuit. Alpine's got enough problems, that's the last thing they need. Ferrari's sitting nicely in P3, P4. Still a very long way to go, and still so many variables. We know that if the rain gets harder, this could very well be your leaderboard. If the rain gets lighter, then there's still a lot that can happen. Another thing we have seen in the rain is sometimes guys just fuel up that little bit more. They'll end up doing 2 or 3 laps on those inters. They don't necessarily do the same as they would in their dry run. You might see 1 or 2 drivers in the field doing something a little different. It depends. If the race is wet, you might want to spend some time out on track to get some practice. If the race is dry, it's all good. Something some people may have missed is on previous games you had the ability to do a bit of practice in the rain with time trial. That has been taken away now. You can only do time trial in the dry. So even less people now get exposure to a wet race circuit. This is Dixie Killer. He's in one of the 2 Alfa Romeos. He's just behind his teammate, but quite a ways behind his teammate, almost half a second. So the gap's really large here in the rain. But it is to be expected, especially on their first runs. A lot of these guys would have done a lot of practice going into the race, but very few of them would have done any practice in the wet. So these runs won't be spot on, probably going to be a bit rusty. You'll see them come down as these guys do more and more laps, get used to the conditions. Welcome to Blade in the comment section, good to have you. It's filling up quite nicely. Acid Milk looking for that first lap time. We just saw the back of his car squirming, looking for traction. Really difficult conditions, and what happens in a short qualifying session, sometimes you can just get caught out. If you have more time than you do, you look down, you still haven't set a lap time. And then that weight on your shoulders just becomes so much more. Acid Milk still looking for a lap very late in the session. Almost halfway through the session. SAFRL on the other side of the timing sheet, 27.2. He's back out on track. And look at that, Big T actually popped the Alpine into P2. That is a 27.7. So 2 drivers in the 27s. Two Ferraris. Split by almost nothing. Look at that, 1/100th of a second splits the 2 Ferrari teammates on the second row. One of those Ferraris is in the pits, the other is right here. This is Skull having a second attempt. Getting very close to that Aston Martin. It looked like he was having a second attempt. But he's backed out of that. I wonder if he just got too close to that Aston Martin, or if he didn't intend to do a fast lap and I just read that wrong. Either way, I can tell you that Afrodoc's current provisional pole sitter, he has just started a second run, so let's stay on board with him, see if he's able to find any improvement. Current best 27.2. We'll have a look at his time in sector 1. Is he able to find any? Of course, in the rain, drivers do not have access to DRS. He has gone quicker, he's gone purple in sector 1. He's found an additional 0.02 of a second. Tenths of a second, sorry. Now Afrodox will follow this lap as he finishes up with sector 2. We saw he went purple in sector 1, found 0.2 of a second on already the best lap on the night, and he's found another 0.4 in sector 2. He's gone purple there too, so surely this is going to be a lap that will take us into the 26s. First lap of the 26s. Is this the track getting better, or is just the drivers getting used to the conditions? If we see the rest of the times tumble down, that's your answer. Afrodox 26.4 finds a lot of time, finds 0.8 of a second, almost a second, and then Big T goes over the line for a 27.0, so closes the gap up to 0.6 again, but not quite in the 26s. Only Afrodox has accomplished the 26s so far. Skull P3, Louis P4. Louis remains in the pits. Skull is out on track looking to improve. 28.1. Alfa Romeo of Pantry Star, currently 28.6. Looks like he's going around to start a quick lap. Currently in P9. Some of these drivers will look a little out of position. Some of these drivers very quick, belong at the top of the field. Might find them scattered in the midfield, and that might have something to do with the weather. Nobody here can say they spend as much time practicing for the wet as they do for the dry. So when we get conditions like this, even the quickest, even the best, can make mistakes. Pantry Star now falling down to P10. Laps still coming in thick and fast. 5 minutes remaining in the session. Another thing to remind the viewers of at home. Usually here at SKR we have a guaranteed 5-minute break in between qualifying and the race. That rule has not been fully implemented for tonight, so as soon as qualifying is over, as soon as you find yourself in the cockpit of the car, make sure you lock in that strategy, make sure you lock in that setup, and if somebody readies up early, you better have all that stuff done and dusted. You're not going to have that break, you're not going to have that breather, so bear that in mind. Just 4 minutes remaining in the session. So far, Big T leads the way, 26.4, and look at those times, 200ths of a second, cover the top two, 26.44, 26.46, absolutely nothing in it on that front row. It's impressive when you see the time so close. It's even more impressive when you see them so close in the wet. Next best is Top Gun. He leads the second row with a 27.2. But if you want to take pole position tonight, you're going to have to get yourself well into the 26s. Uh, 19 drivers will be starting this race. One of the tightest, twistiest circuits on the calendar. And the first couple of laps are going to be extremely important. So important to keep your nose clean. Make sure you don't fall into that column of drivers who does a pit stop at the end of lap 1 because of damage. You need to keep your nose clean, need to keep the car pointing in the right direction, at least for those first couple of laps when things start to spread out. But this is a circuit that you can expect first lap mayhem, and this is a track you can expect multiple safety cars. And if the conditions stay like this, then definitely. Nobody's given me any sort of confirmation in the comment section as to the weather in the race, so we're still going in blind with 2 minutes remaining. If anybody's able to tell me, do we have a dry race or do we have more of this? If not, in about 3 minutes from now, the pit lane will tell us. Big T on an outlap, Afrodox on an outlap. Those are the two fastest drivers here tonight. Their lap time split by just 200ths of a second. This is Smurf in the Alpha Tauri. And I have to get used to calling them the RB. We had too many F1 teams starting with the letter A, so no problem with Alpha Tauri becoming RB and Alfa Romeo becoming, well, I'm not sure what they're called. Let's just call them Sauber. Skull goes over the line, and look at that. It goes even quicker, 26.1, almost into the 25s. Big T will go over the line. He's going to start a quick lap. Afrodox not far behind him, also on a lap. We're going to see these times come down surely. I was having a look to see if Skull was maybe on another run, but we just saw him get tires on the grass there. I don't think he's on another run. I think that's his session done. 26.1 is the lap to beat. Big T looking for that improvement. Afrodox looking for that improvement. Almost identical lap times. We haven't mentioned Divan in P4, almost identical lap time. Look at that. P3, P4, 4,000ths of a second cover those two drivers. Couldn't get any closer than that. You'd have to add a fourth decimal. Afrodox up into provisional pole, 25.1. And now Big T. He's gone quickest in Sector 2. We're going to stay on board with the Alpine. Skull went into provisional pole with a 26.1. Then Afrodox put an entire second on that, 25.1. And now Big T goes over the line, 25.8. Goes into P2. Does anybody else have anything more? Still a few drivers out on track. Mr. M out on track. Gotzi out on track. That's both Red Bulls. Got a McLaren out on track. As well as the Sky. Sorry, that's Andre at the rear of the field. Still looking for a lap time. Mr. Rem, P9, as the checkered flag falls. Then Gotzi. Let's stay in P13, no improvement for the second Red Bull. And now we just have Andre finishing off the session. See what he's able to do as he goes over the line. And that's a big improvement. Goes up into P7, he'll breathe a sigh of relief. Now we're going to be going into the race. Reminder to all the drivers, we do not have the 5-minute rule enforced, so you need to be on your toes. Make sure you put in your strategy, put in your setup, and be ready if that timer comes a lot sooner than you thought it would. So now we just await the official results for qualifying. We had a little bit of a late start, but once we got going, then we got a wet quali. I don't think anyone was expecting that. No one was talking about that. There are your official results. SAFRL is going to start from pole position with a 24.7 class of the field. Then Big T P2, Skull P3, Louis P4. They're going to be followed by Divan, Rhino, Andre. He got that lap in right at the end. Top Gun P8, Smurf P9, and Itoy make up the top 10. Just outside the top 10, Mr. Rem 11, Dixie Killer P12. Then we've got Acid Milk, Kotzi, Bantry Star, Revolution, Chums, Disguise, and Spikes will be starting from P19 as he was disqualified from the session and didn't set a lap. Usually we'd have a 5-minute pause, but this time we've got to keep our eyes peeled. We don't know when it's going to start. Could start earlier than we expect. Obviously it's a dry circuit. If there is going to be any rain, it's going to come later on. It's certainly not here right now. So it's going to be crucial who gets off the line first, and even more crucial who comes out of turn 1 first. First couple of laps here in Hungary can be tricky. Track is very twisty, very narrow, and sometimes by the time you get to lap 3 and DRS becomes active, everyone is still so incredibly close together that you get this extremely long DRS train, and if you're in the middle of it, it makes a track that is extremely difficult to overtake on even more difficult to overtake on. Because you're stuck in a DRS train where everyone's DRS cancels each other out. Welcome Rick, welcome Ruan. You've obviously just missed quali, and now we're about to get underway. Guys now just finishing up with their strategies. Are you going to overfuel? Are you going to underfuel, and by how much? Obviously, if you get a lot of safety cars, you'd like to underfuel. But if you don't get any safety cars, underfueling can seriously hurt you at the end of the race. Hope you guys have been enjoying the new style intros for the races that I've been trying out. Luckily, it has no effect on the channel, but F1 have given us a DMCA just to let us know that that little part of the song that I play for approximately 50 seconds, that it belongs to them. Was a good qualifying session. Obviously, the wet does change things up a little bit. If you're going into qualifying with just your standard approach, and then when that menu disappears and you see the raindrops falling, you have to come up with a new approach very quickly. Now we're just waiting in anticipation for the start of the race. I can't tell you when we're going to start. We used to have a 5-minute rule, so I could tell you generally, but really now it's going to come down to whoever presses the ready up button first, and then we're going to have 30 seconds and the 5 red lights. But until then, I have no indication of when we'll get going. Hopefully, it'll be soon. There we go. 5 red lights. Almost caught me unawares there. And we're off. It's going to be Alpine versus Mercedes-Benz into turn 1. And who's going to come out on top? Are we going to have a clean turn 1? Remember, 19 cars in the field. The Alpine's got the inside, but it looks like the Mercedes has got this superior traction coming out of the corner, and SAFRL will hold on to the lead. Looking back down the order, looks like everyone got a good start. Everyone through turn 1 cleanly. Very nicely done. SAFRL leads the way from Big T. Those cars very close together. Then a bit of a gap down to the Haas in P3. 2 Ferraris, Linus Stern, P4 and 5, Louis and Skull. Then we have Smurf in P6. First, I was going to say first of the 2 Williams, but the only Williams here this evening. Top Gun in P7. Then we've got Rhino 8, Pantry Star trading positions. He was briefly 9th, now down to 10th. And Detoy taking that P9 and now P8. Ooh, and we've got a Haas, and it looks like a Sauber. A Haas and a Sauber at the rear of the field going into a barrier. We've got a virtual safety car. Hopefully it remains just that. I think this will remain just a virtual safety car, so hopefully we'll be underway shortly. We did lose two of those cars. We don't see any DNF, so I'm going to presume both those cars survived, just with a bit of a rebuild. They'll both be returning to the pits, and the longer the virtual safety car stays out, the better for them. So they can do those pit stops while all their competitors are going around at a reduced speed. Just sitting stationary while these guys are doing full speed makes a heck of a difference. But we are back underway. Drive-through penalty for Big T. Ooh, and that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt later on in the race. Remember, that is a drive-through penalty, so that cannot be served in a pit stop. That cannot be added at the end of the race. A drive-through penalty needs to be served within 3 laps of it being issued. So it's going to be interesting to see, when does Big T come into the pits. Is he going to wait till the 3rd lap? Is he going to do it immediately? But he needs to make the choice. Just want to get confirmation it is a drive-through. There are your tyre compounds for the race. Quite a mix of softs and hards. Pretty unexpected. Just the 2 drivers on mediums. Those are Chums and Top Gun, having 2 very different races, one in P7, one down in P18. Everybody else has gone for the soft or the hard compound, and Rhino the only man to have made a pit stop. This is Big T. Does he have any sort of damage on the car? No, he doesn't. He's just fallen adrift now from Aphrodite. 1.5 seconds, and he's got that penalty hanging over his head. Just a little something to break the concentration. You know there's a penalty, and you're thinking, right, when am I going to do this? Am I going to go now? Am I going to go in a few laps' time? And that is crucial time. You should be focusing on the race circuit. And sometimes the guys can just start to drop off a little. Big T has come into the pits. He's going to serve that drive through. But because the field is still so close together, that is going to hurt his race in a big way. Big T continues to drop down the field. As you can see, a whole stream of cars coming down the main straight. And where will Big T emerge? Loses a couple more positions. Aphrodite now out front on his own, 2.4 seconds the gap. Divan in the Haas, he now takes up P2. And the Ferrari still close together on lap 4. 3 and 4 in the order. Which one of them is going to take the podium position if this is the situation we see at the end? I'm still interested to see just the 2 medium runners. What's your theory in the comment section? What are the guys doing? 1 stop, 2 stop? What is the plan? Guys starting on softs, how far can they go into the race? Maybe the guys starting on soft are expecting an early safety car. If that doesn't come, how far do they go? Lap 9, lap 10? You tell me, you guys. You guys know more than I do. For the time being, Aphrodite leads the way, Divan P2. Then we've got the 2 Ferraris. As we look for a battle on track, we find a battle on track. It's Andre versus Detoy. And Andre comes out on top, opens up DRS, gets through easily. I think that McLaren is ghosting. And yes, it is. That'll be disappointing for the McLaren driver. Was doing very well. Now that car's ghosting. He's not in control of it. It will drop down the order. Hopefully we'll see him get back in that car as soon as possible. We don't see that car drop any further down the field. But now Dixie Killer and a whole handful of cars approaching that McLaren. So by the time Detoy gets back, he could be in a very, very different race. As for Aphrodite, seems like easy pickings at the moment, leads by 2.5 seconds. We have the two Ferraris. And they love to get both Scarlet Ferraris up on the podium. To do that, they've got a Ferrari powered car ahead of him, the Haas. Don't know what they're going to be able to do about the Mercedes-Benz out front. Seems to have all the pace he needs at the moment. Big T was giving him a go, but those penalties. Now, speaking of Big T, he's just made up a few positions in the last few corners. He's up into P9. Now, if you're expecting him to have a fresh set of tyres, no, he doesn't. He didn't make a pit stop. He had a drive-through, so forced to lose all that time, and you don't even get a fresh set of tyres out of it. One of the harsher penalties. As for the penalties column on lap 6, still remains empty. Good driving by everyone. Very easy to exceed track limits on this track. Very narrow. Try and use all of the race circuit, and sometimes you use too much of it. Two Ferraris still close together. They were close together in qualifying, and now in the race that pace has translated to race pace, and they're still close together. You'll also see they're on the same strategy, those two Ferraris, both on 6-lap old hards. So hopefully those drivers are in communication over what they want to do when that pit stop time does come. Who's going to go in first, who's going to go in second. Obviously, if they get further apart, they're not going to have to worry about that. But as long as they stay this close together on circuit, they're going to need to be in communication. You ride with Big T as he continues to clear cars. He's now up into P7, and he's driving and he's on a mission. Probably a little annoyed by that penalty. Driving in anger just a little bit, and it's translating into the lap times. It's coming through the field very quickly. Not so long ago he was in P11. It's now up to P7, and he's hunting down a Williams, but he's got quite a ways to go. He needs to find 8.5 seconds before he can get up the road to Top Gun. Skull now starting to fall adrift from his teammate, the gap 1.2 seconds, and he's got Smurf in his DRS. The top Alfa Romeo on the evening, Dixie Killer in P8, his teammate down in P10. Both Alfa Romeos are in the points. And that, I believe, is I might be mistaken, let me just try and get some confirmation. Well, you see, I'm not quite sure how that happened. So it seems like we had a fastest lap glitch of some kind. Gotzi went over the line and the lap time said best lap 0.2. Hopefully that corrects itself by the end of the race, and we can actually see the fastest lap. Revolution has picked up the penalty. Let's just have a look what that is. Just a 3-second penalty, so that's the first of the drivers to go over track limits one too many times. As we've seen many times in the past, if there is a safety car towards the end of the race, these penalties can really come back to bite you. Dixie Killer in P8, But he's coming under a lot of pressure. He's coming under pressure from Andre, and Andre's coming under pressure from the second Alfa Romeo. Dixie Killer might have let Pantry Star through if they were on different strategies, but since Andre's in the middle there, it really makes things difficult for both Alfa Romeos. Last thing, they can't switch positions, and the last thing they want to do is run into each other. So they sort of got to hold station even though they're on completely different strategies. Divan, he's in P2. Earlier on in the race, didn't look like he had the pace to stay with the two in front of him, but since then Big T got a drive-through penalty at the virtual safety car restart. And that sent him down the field. He is on a recovery drive of his own, trying to catch up to the Williams up the road from him. 7 seconds is that gap, so he's going to be in free air for quite some time. And just pound in the laps now. All the drivers that started on the soft compound will now be starting to think of tyre life. They'll be starting to think of pit windows. Will be starting to enter their mind. When do I go? You don't want to go a lap too early, you don't want to go a lap too late. Either one can work against you. When you roll the dice just right, and you get that undercut just right, it can feel oh so good, but when you get it wrong, that's the problem, is when you get it wrong. These are the laps you want to be doing your best on, is when you're approaching those pit windows. You want to be doing your best possible laps, losing the least amount of time. But what's going against you is that your tires are starting to fall off. So you've got to push, but you've got to push within reason. Make sure that car stays on track. Divan having a very comfortable and quiet race of his own in P2, 4 seconds behind the leader, and P3 a further 10 seconds behind him. Dewey has also broken away from his teammate and is having a somewhat lonely race. So all three in the top three having lonely races. We haven't seen any safety cars, and that's what brings the field close together, is if we have a safety car every few laps, these guys just aren't able to get away from each other. So far we've had a clean race. We still have 19 drivers. Those are the 19 we started with, and there has been no need for a safety car, so the field has naturally spread out over the first 12 laps. And our leader's in the pits. Divan becomes the new leader of the race. Aphrodite, he's already on his way out of the pits. Louis goes up into P2. Is he going to lose another 2 positions? Yes, he is. Top Gun up into P3. Skull P4. And Aphrodite, he will re-emerge behind Smurf. I think he's going to have a go at that Alpha Tauri almost immediately. As soon as he feels those tires are up to temperature, he's not going to wait any more time than is necessary. Wants to come through this field, doesn't want to get stuck in traffic. He had a very comfortable lead. When will Divan pit? Surely he'll pit at the end of this lap. We'll ride on board with the current leader. He's got a comfortable gap, 10 seconds. But his competitor tonight has already made a pit stop. And we don't see a pit stop from Divan. He's staying out on track. Big T still on that recovery drive. He has 11 laps on his softs as well. Remember, he came into the pits, but it was a drive-through, so he still has the same old set of tires that everyone else does. At least if it's a 5-second penalty at a pit stop, you get a fresh set of rubber. If it's a drive-through, well, it's just there to break your time. Top 3, Divan, Louis, Afrodox. Remember, Afrodox has led this race for much of the way. He came into the pits, now he's back out on circuit. He's just gone purple in Sector 1, fastest Sector 1 of all tonight. So that he's making those mediums work for him. At 13 of 35, still such a long way to go. Out front, Divan, he has not made a pit stop, but he's actually extending that gap. That gap was just over 10 seconds, now just over 11 seconds, so he's extending the gap down to Louis. But I think that's got to do with Louis coming under tremendous pressure. And there we go, side by side stuff. But there's no need for latest on the brakes, because Afrodox was clearly up into P2 before they arrived at the corner. And now Afrodox will be released. And now surely Divan is going to have to react to that. He's got a 10.5 second gap to Afrodox in P2. Afrodox has pit, Divan has not. And as you can see, that gap already coming down. It was 10.5 seconds, now it's under 10, and we have a safety car. First safety car of the evening. And this may have worked out perfectly depending on where Divan is at on track. Is he close to the pit entry? Not as close as he'd like to be, but he's relatively close to the pit entry. Everything was going oh so nicely, and then we got our first safety car. On lap 14 of 35, the race has been neutralized, and we wait to see what happens next. Divan into the pits, Afrodox into the pits. Now remember, Afrodox just made a pit stop. He came in and got a fresh set of mediums. He's now coming in and putting on another set of mediums. Interesting decision. Divan emerges from the pits in the lead of the race. Skull. Now this is where it can be difficult when you start on the hardest available compound. That means in your strategy you want to go very deep into this race. Then a safety car comes out on lap 12, 13, 14, whatever it was. It's simply too early to come in on that hard tire. You haven't used it for its lifespan, and that's why Skull has chosen to stay out, hold on to track position, but he's on 14 lap old hards and everyone around him has a brand new set of tires. So Skull may be in P2 now. He's not going to want to pit right now because the field's all close together. He's going to come out at the rear of the field, but if he doesn't pit, he's going to be a sinking stone as soon as we get going. Not only do those drivers behind him have fresher tires, they have faster tires. It's on a set of hards. Basically the entire field behind him, with the exception of Top Gun, is on a set of brand new mediums. It's going to be very difficult to hold on to that P2 for any considerable amount of time. What this has done is it's closed up all the gaps that we mentioned a little earlier on, gaps that were forming, gaps that were getting a little bit too big in the early stages of the race. This will bring everybody back together, and Skull deciding he'll rather take the pain now, go into the pits, see where he emerges from the pits. and take it from there rather than waiting and then being a sitting duck on that safety car restart. But where will he emerge from the pits? Remember, he was in P2. We said the field was very close together. There's a bit of a gap down to Mr. M, so he might emerge in P12. And he has. You can see Mr. M there in the background. He is on the straight, but Skull will come back into this in P12. Safety car is still out and will still be out for a while. So he's going to be able to catch up to the queue. So it's P12, but it's not the worst case scenario. At least everybody is nicely bunched up in front of you when you get going again. Now Divan, who was in P2, seemed like Aphrodux had the pace on him. Now he leads the race. Got an equal set of tyres to Aphrodux. Will he be able to pull away at the restart? Will he be able to defend? Will Aphrodux come at him immediately? I think he's going to have to. Remember Big T? He was on a recovery drive. He was just struggling a little bit because those gaps had really extended already. Had to make up 5 or 6 seconds to catch a car in front of him. Now all those gaps have been eliminated. So Big T will be restarting the race from P6. But remember, the field is very close together. So we could have Big T back up into the top 3 very soon. Gonna have another lap here on the safety car. There we go, sorry about that. My streaming software just decided to switch monitors and I was blind for a second. Luckily, we're in the safety car conditions. We've got a 5-second penalty for a severe collision. I believe that was Acid Milk that picked up that penalty. Quite an odd time to pick up a collision penalty behind the safety car. We will get going at the end of this lap. Looks like the whole field is close together. Obviously I would take this safety car time to show you the championship points. There's nothing to show. It's round 1. We have confirmation of that safety car. Yes, we do. Confirmation safety car in this lap. You'll now see the horse of Divan letting that safety car pull off into the distance. He will now resume responsibility of leading this field around. Really, it's up to the leader how he wants to do things. If he wants to back the field up, if he wants to accelerate around this final corner, if he wants to leave it to the start-finish line. It's his decision, but there can be no overtaking until that start-finish line, and it looks like he's leaving it very late. And now he does go. Be tight into turn 1, Aphrodux versus Divan. Is he going to be patient? Yes, he is. Thought about it into turn 1. We saw the car just having a glancing look, but nothing coming from it. And now, has he got it this time round, or will the horse hold on? I think he's got it, yes, and he's going to do it around the outside. Even better. Did it in style. Aphrodux retakes the lead of this race, where he's been for most of this race. But remember, this man here, he was on a recovery drive, and that safety car will have helped that recovery drive a lot. Big T in P4, chasing down the Ferrari of Louis, chasing down that podium position. His next target will be Divan, and then the front row will be reunited. He's going to have to do a lot of work. SAFRL is going purple in sector 2. So at this stage of the race, SAFRL certainly does have the pace. Big T might have similar pace, but we can't tell because he's in traffic. He's trying to come through the field, and it's taking him a little bit longer than he'd like because he's in a DRS train. And as we've mentioned before, when you're in a DRS train, with DRS, well, it doesn't work to your advantage anymore. It simply keeps you in the game. We have two Haas cars on very opposite sides of the grid. Divan in P2, his teammate not having a good time in P18. But as we've seen, safety cars can come out and really switch things around. This particular safety car that we just saw, I think it would have worked quite nicely for the Alpine driver, Big T. Might have seen his race chances disappear when he got that penalty. The safety car will have just reignited some hopes. The light at the end of the tunnel may have just got a lot bigger. And just that little bit of encouragement, it might be able to squeeze that extra tenth or two out of you. When you know you could win, when you can see the leaders down the road, it just pushes you that little bit more. SAFRL leads the way from Divan, then Louis in P3. Big T still pushing, trying to get on the back of that Ferrari. Top Gun in P5. I think we are missing one or two drivers. See, reserves have stepped in. I'm not 100% sure on who is missing. There were two drivers who did back out earlier on, just before the race, so I didn't get their names. SAFRL leads the way, Divan P2, then we have Louis in P3. That order has remained the same for a long time now, but for how much longer can it remain the same? Because Big T is hunting down that Ferrari. Big T has personally broken the DRS behind him, so he doesn't need to worry about Top Gun being in his mirrors anymore. And now he can open up DRS and chase down that Ferrari. Start to push him, start to hound him. Keep on applying the pressure until either you find a space or the Ferrari makes a mistake. SAFRL still leads, Divan still P2, and he's been able to hold on to that gap. SAFRL hasn't been able to get too far up the road, still holding on to DRS. That's going to be crucial. Needs to stay within DRS. Got to remember, even if the driver ahead of you's got a 2 or 3 tenth advantage per lap, if you're able to stay within his DRS, you can cancel that advantage out. The moment that DRS breaks, that 2 or 3 tenths is going to translate to that car getting smaller and smaller up the road. Louis still under pressure. Big T hasn't been able to get close enough up until now. Still not going to be close enough. One of the more difficult racetracks on the calendar to make your overtakes. That is the best overtaking opportunity. Turn 1. Didn't get it done, but he's going to get it done in an even more difficult spot. And he's done it brilliantly. Big T up the inside, takes P3, and now he's going to have a clean racetrack ahead of him. Needs to find 4.5 seconds so he can catch up to the horse. And then he may find his old rival from qualifying. And he probably didn't think he'd see him again in this race. The safety car worked out just perfectly. We go down to P8, where Pantry Star finds himself in the middle of a DRS chain. He's trying to get past the McLaren ahead of him, that is the toy. But then in his mirrors, he's got the Red Bull of Gotzi. Such a difficult position to find yourself in, especially around a track like Hungary. Not much you can do about the car ahead of you. And then every now and then you're going to glance down at your mirrors and have a little heart attack. That's the one Alfa Romeo. The other Alfa Romeo also in a DRS battle. Dexy Killer, he is on the gearbox of the Ferrari of Skull, and then he too is followed by a Red Bull, Mr. M. All of these drivers so close together looking for positions. We've just had the one retirement, that was Andre. That was the AlphaTauri. As AlphaTauri just have one car left in this race. And obviously Williams only started this race with one car. Everybody else still has their teammates. Not many teams have been able to achieve double points in this race. I didn't want to say it too soon, but maybe somebody that's watching, just confirm it. But as things stand right now, I know things could change, but just look at the screen right now, and do we have 10 manufacturers in the... I think we have 10 manufacturers in the top 10. And that is, that's quite impressive. You don't see that every day. I think every single driver there in the top 10 doesn't have a teammate in the top 10. It's not something you can say very often. Big T got himself up into P3, but since then he hasn't been able to shake off that Ferrari. Still within DRS. And he's got to find 7.5 seconds if he's going to get on terms with the Haas driver ahead of him. He's had a fantastic recovery drive, but now things are going to become a little bit more difficult. Things are starting to plateau for him. Tyres 9 laps old. Need to start thinking about tyre management. Can't be throwing the car around like it's a quali lap. And now he's just struggling to shake off that Ferrari that's actually coming closer to him now. Ferrari will have DRS as we go down the main straight. It's one of the shorter main straights in F1. It's not going to be a guaranteed pass, but he does go side by side. And he is ahead as we go into turn 1. So Big T back down into P4. It's not the way he would have wanted to be going, and there's been a switch already. They've switched back already. We had a terrible camera angle, so we couldn't see it, but I wonder if Louis just battled to get it stopped, maybe broke himself, but Big T immediately took that position back. So P3 far from decided. At the front though, Aphrodite leads the way. 2 seconds is the gap. Something interesting just popped up on my screen, or maybe it's been there for a long time and I haven't noticed it. But Divan has a 3-second penalty that could be crucial. Remember, a relatively big gap there between Big T and Divan, 8.5 seconds. But that is now a 5.5 second gap on paper. So he's got to be very careful. He doesn't want to stack up any more penalties, make his race even more difficult. Big T coming around the final corner. Looks like he's just now starting to shake off that Ferrari. We said he was struggling with it. The Ferrari now outside of DRS. That's going to allow Big T just to stretch his legs, stretch the lead a little bit. And then he can concentrate on that horse ahead of him. He wasn't able to concentrate on the horse ahead of him because he was looking in his mirrors. Top Gun in the top 5, the only Williams. Then we have Smurf for AlphaTauri, Pantry-Star Alfa Romeo, McLaren of Detroit, Red Bull P9 of Gotti, and then an Aston Martin. We have 10 manufacturers in the top 10, and as many races as I've commentated on, I can't tell you the last time that happened. I'm not even sure. I don't think it has. Be quite the interesting thing to see in real life F1 if we suddenly got 10 manufacturers in the top 10. Even more interesting, who would be the unlucky teammates outside the top 10. Louis in P4, that gap's now growing. It was 1.2 seconds on the last lap, now 1.5. And that's what the DRS train can do. It can give you the ability to just stay with that driver ahead of you, even if he's a little quicker. At the moment that DRS breaks, that little bit quicker that he has on you starts to show. Fortunately for Divan, there's not much Big T is able to do. He's going in the wrong direction. The gap was 7 seconds. It's now 9.1. It's actually getting bigger. Both those drivers at the front have now picked up penalties. Both of them 3-second penalties. Just getting confirmation there. So that won't affect P1 and 2 too much because both of them have 3-second penalties that cancel each other out. Who it will affect is Big T. He's 9 seconds down the road, and if he could somehow close the gap to the leader to within 3 seconds, he'd win the race. But I think he's just on the wrong side of that gap. He wants a safety car. He wants something to close up this field. And if he's able to have a restart in 3rd place, things could be very different. But if we don't have a safety car and we race till the end, I think his tyres may have passed their peak, and any gains he was hoping to make will be slipping slowly in the wrong direction. Afrodox leads the way comfortably, 2.3 seconds, then Divan. Divan's got a comfortable lead over P3. Big T's in 3rd, and he's also looking comfortable to hold on to that podium position. Louis, 2.5 seconds down the road, he's now falling off that podium, but he's still in a comfortable 4th place. We have to go down to P5 to find our first DRS battle, and it's Top Gun versus Pantry-Star. Top Gun P5, Pantry-Star P6, looking to get himself into the top 5. He's got a set of mediums, Top Gun's got a set of hards. Those tyres the same age, but surely the mediums will be expected to fall off sooner. So if Pantry-Star is going to make the pass, he needs to make the pass now, while those mediums still have a little bit of life in them. They may start falling off in the closing stages. Then Top Gun may be able to hold on to that position. A little further back, we've got Smurf in P7. That car just falling down the field there. Okay, it's just a pit stop. It's just getting confirmation to make sure it wasn't an incident, but we had a Ferrari falling down the field. That was Skull making a pit stop pretty late in the race. This is the sort of thing you do. And if you do get a safety car, and you've just stopped for softs, well, all of a sudden you're in contention for a race win. But unfortunately those gambles don't always work. When they do, you look like a genius. When they don't, it's one of those performances that make you go, meh. It was 10 manufacturers in the top 10. That's been spoiled now. We've got 2 Alfa Romeos in the top 10, one in P6, one in P10. It's Dixie Killer and his teammate Pantry Star. Pantry Star still looking for a way past Top Gun, looking to get past the Williams. And now, surely, side by side, wheel to wheel, and Pantry Star comes out on top. He goes up into P5. Hopefully he'll be able to hold on to that position. We said those mediums are going to start aging. For the time being, Top Gun's going to be right on his tail, and he's not going to let this go. If he's going to get that position back, the best chance to get it is right now. As soon as Pantry Star is just able to stabilize and get a feel for things again, you just pull away from that Williams. So when you want to come back and attack, you want to do it immediately. Big T is in P3, and like we said earlier, looks like his race just plateaued a little bit. Looked like he was going to be closing that gap to the top 2. Suddenly, gap started going the other way. 11.3 seconds now. Remember, those 2 drivers ahead of him do have penalties, so it won't quite be an 11-second gap. They don't have enough penalties to make a difference to the score sheets. Top Gun, he has not given up on that P5. He's all over the back of Pantry Star. Alfa Romeo versus Williams, 2 of the cars we would expect to see at the rear of the field. At least they were at the rear of the field last season. As for this season, well, both those teams are a bit of a mess. The Alfa Romeo team went back to being known as Sauber and somehow forgot how to make a pit stop. And the Williams team is struggling to keep 2 chassis out on circuit. And for those of you who don't know, it is a race against time for Williams to have a second chassis available for China next week. So there is a very good chance that we could just have the 1 Williams running in China next week. All depends if they're able to get that chassis out on time. Afrodox, Divan, Big T, Louis, Pantry Star, top 5 have not changed in order. The only one who can change that order is Top Gun. He's the closest to the top 5. 0.6 of a second away, but he's on a hard tyre. And does he have what is needed to come back at Pantry Star, or can Pantry Star just break that DRS and keep top 5, or keep 5th place for himself rather? Toy P8, saw him having issues earlier on in the race. He was doing a lot better, but then his car was ghosting, which means he left the lobby. Obviously regained control of that car, but a race that could have been much better. He didn't have those few laps out of the cockpit. Divan picks up a 3-second penalty. Now, it's just a little too late. It's just a little too late for Big T really to do anything about it. 6 seconds. So that means Afrodox is a lot more comfortable. He was already comfortable. He's even more comfortable. 3.5 second gap. Plus the other 3 seconds makes it a 6.5 second gap for the lead. I think Afrodox just needs to bring this car home. Just needs to bring it home. And he's got this race victory all sewn up. Looking for battles on track, and there aren't many of them. First DRS battle you can find on track, you have to go all the way down to the battle for P12. That's the Rem and Revolution fighting it out for P12. You can see how competitive this field is, because these guys are fighting for 12th position, and 12th position doesn't even come with a point. But it all comes down to bragging rights at the end of the race. And nobody wants to give up easily. Nobody wants to finish at the back, regardless of if there are points involved or not. Lap 34 of 35. No change at the front. Let's go down the order and look for any DRS battles, and we don't have any. That's the result of just having one safety car in the race. Faster drivers get further ahead, slower drivers fall further behind. If a safety car doesn't come out every now and then and just neutralize things, by the end of the race, find yourself in a situation where you can't find a DRS battle on track. We've actually got two DRS battles on track. We've got Mr. M fighting Revolution for P12, and then a more relevant one, Top Gun, still fighting for P5, but he's got a penalty next to his name. You just noticed that Top Gun has a penalty next to his name, so as much as he's fighting for that 5th position, he's not going to be able to hold on to it. 3-second penalty next to his name. Back to the leader. He's about to start lap 35 of 35. It's been a fantastic race for him. He just needs to do it all one more time. And he's gone through turn 1 for the final time. Divan down the road, 5 seconds down the road. He's got a few penalties of his own to worry about, but luckily for him, Big T 13 seconds down the road, so he doesn't need to worry about that 6 seconds worth of penalties. Should have 2nd place guaranteed. Big T also comfortably in 3rd place. Louis looking comfortable. Pantry Star. There is a battle on track, but we can see by the timing sheets that penalty, the battle is only on track. It's not on the timing sheets. Pantry Star should finish in P5 if he's able to get to the end of the race. Is that Aphrodite just lapping an Alpine? I believe it is. Never a good feeling to get lapped in a 50% race. But Aphrodite has done everything right. He's done everything he needed to do. He stayed out of the penalties column, which some of his competition wasn't able to do. He's done just enough, and he's got the perfect start to season 7. A victory in round 1 here in Hungary. Big T going around the final corner. This could have been a lot worse when he got that drive through. I think he'll be happy with the 3rd place. Nice handful of points for round 1. Louis goes over the line, P4. Pantry Star does hold on to P5 on the track. Didn't need to rely on the penalties column. Was able to hold on to that position on track. And again, that's just an example of how competitive these guys are. You would have known, driver behind me has all sorts of penalties, I can let him go. But he raced down to the line. Top 10 have all gone over the line. We're going to wait for the official results before we read anything out. Penalties have left me with surprises in the end. But something that's even more surprising, we started with 19 drivers on one of the most narrow tracks on the calendar, and I was expecting all sorts of safety cars, all sorts of shenanigans. But we have got to the end of this race with 18 of the 19 starters. And that can only be described as impressive. Driver of the day goes to Pantry Star, finished in P5 and picked up the Driver of the Day award. think this piece here just needs to have the Dutch anthem, and that will make the game more realistic. There we go. Official results, Afrodox taking the victory. Also took the fastest lap, so he's picking up 26 points here in round 1. The perfect start. Divan P2. Big T, good recovery drive back into 3rd place when he emerged from the pits in P11. Then Louis P4, followed by Pantry Star, Top Gun, Smurf, Gotzi, Skull, and Detoy picking up the final point this evening. Finishing the race but not making it into the points, Mr. MP11, Acid Milk P12, Revolution 13th. We've got Spikes 14, Chums 15, Dixie Killer 16, Disguise 17, and then Rhino making up the field in P18, with Andre being the only DNF on the evening. I want to thank everybody who joined us this evening. We had a bit of a slow start. Started about 10 minutes late, something like that. But everybody stayed with the stream. Everybody was patient, and we got a good race at the end of the day. Started with 19 drivers, finished with 18, just the one safety car. So a much cleaner race than we have come to expect in recent weeks. But if you enjoyed that, then I really hope to see you back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we will be back a little bit later. Tonight's race was at 6. Tomorrow's race will be at 8. Obviously SAFRL Tier 1 will be back in action tomorrow night. And then again Tier 2 on Wednesday and DRS on Thursday. And of course SKR on Sundays. I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. I hope to see you tomorrow night. And if you're a big motorsport fan, MotoGP is coming up at 9 PM. I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I hope to see you here tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed, remember to subscribe, leave a like on the video, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Cheers till then.